Guys, 2021 is almost over and it's time to upgrade your wallet. Our friends at Ridge are here to help you step up your pocket game. This incredible wallet is light, sleek, and industrial. Plus, it doesn't bulge out of your back pocket. Ridge wallets hold up to 12 cards, plus all the cash you need. You can choose from over 30 colors and styles, including carbon fiber and burnt titanium. It's the best wallet you can buy, and you don't just have to take my word for it, because there's over 30,000 five-star reviews. I was skeptical at first, but once I tried it, I never went back. And for you, there's no pressure. Test it out for 45 days. If you don't love it, send it back, get a full refund. A Ridge wallet is the perfect gift for the holidays. There's a lifetime warranty, and when you click on the link in the description, you'll get 15% off until December 8th with free worldwide shipping and returns. Go to ridge.com/Chael. That's ridge.com/Chael and use the promo code Chael. Sean Brady. Sean Brady was the star of the weekend for me. I was blown away. And a couple of things happened. Let me just share it from my perspective. But Sean Brady turns out to be the favorite on DraftKings.com. And I just happened to catch this right before the show and remember thinking that's a misprint. I wasn't overly familiar with Sean Brady. Now, I boned up on him. The guy's 5-0 in the UFC and 15 in overall, and he's a good wrestler, but he's got a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I know everything about Sean Brady there is to know right now, but I will share for you, I was surprised who this human being, Sean Brady, standing opposite in a co-main event against Chiesa was, and more importantly, how does DraftKings have him as the favorite? Got to be a misprint, which they do sometimes, by the way. There is some online gaming sites that make a misprint. Like here, I'll tell you one that Matt Lindland used to always clean up on. He would check this every single time, but they would put whether a fight is going to be over or under 3 rounds. Well, the gaming sites would get it wrong. They would put fights that were not championship fights, and they would let you get action on that. This happened specifically with Tim Sylvia. I remember when Matt Lindland placed this bet because he was showing me, but I didn't have a long online account. I couldn't do it. Tim Sylvia was the champion of the world. He lost the belt. So his next fight was not a title fight, which the gaming site didn't know at the time. And they put, what do you think it's going to go over or under 3? It had a $500 maximum bet, but you could do it. I swear to goodness I had this flashback when Sean Brady was favored to beat Chiesa. All right. Turns out Sean Brady is absolutely fantastic. Now, beating Chiesa is one thing. Chiesa, partway through this fight, yelled to his, I think it was the second round, but he yells to his corner, oh my God, this guy is strong. Now, that's another level of strength. To get Chiesa to admit that is one thing. To get Chiesa to admit that during the fight while he's having a hard time with his strength, it's next level strength. And there are some human beings that possess it. Where you would think, well, Chiesa's 170, this guy's 170, they must be similar in strength. And then one guy's not. I have felt guys like that. It's very rare. I can name 2 off the top of my head in my entire life. A man named Les Gutchess, a man named George St. Pierre, that to this day I can remember a strength. It was debilitating. It wasn't about you versus me or my moves versus yours or grit or heart, any of these buzzwords that you hear. It was purely strength. My goodness, what are you, a cyborg? Unbelievable strength. And George, by the way, I weighed more than. So it wasn't just what you would think, right? Well, whoever's bigger, stronger, usually you would be right. Just on that alone, usually you would be right in a broad stroke. I weighed more and I still remember his strength to this day. All right, hold the thought because Chiesa said this about Sean. Sean did a great job. He's the star of the weekend for me. Daniel Cormier interviews him. Daniel Cormier asks him not once, not twice, but 3 times for a name. Sean says nothing. Sean says everything in the world except a name. I want a top 10 guy. I want a top 5 guy. I want a rank guy. He says everything in the world except for a guy. Why? Now, this isn't us kicking Sean. Let's be real matter of fact here. Let's be real intellectual about this and try to deduce why he wouldn't do that. My hypothesis, he didn't think he was going to win. I am out in left field wearing a catcher's mitt. I have no evidence of what I'm saying, and I am not faulting Sean, even if he was questioning himself going into that match. But before you go into a match, you are going to play out every possible scenario. You're going to play it. There's big deals that happen that fighters will think about that a fan would never see. Such as I'm in the back warming up, the fight before me goes the distance. I'm in the back warming up, the fight before me gets stopped in 30 seconds. You got to be ready. You got to be ready to make that walk, and it doesn't happen that night at the arena. You think about this before. You're in the hotel room the night before. You can barely sleep. You're playing every possible scenario through. He shuts my eye. I only got one eye. I'm down one round. I got to win the next two. I'm up 2 rounds. How do I close out the third? You're playing every possible scenario through. He gets like a deer in the headlights when they're asking him who he wants to fight next, and he's getting real close to giving the correct answers as he sees it. Well, a top guy and a top 5. Nobody knows what anybody's ranked. Sean Brady is now 15-0. I didn't know he existed, and I'm not looking to be a dick. This guy's a total stud, and it's my job to know. That's not a knock on Sean. That's a knock on me, but it's true nonetheless. I did not know a Sean Brady was within the UFC. I did not know a Sean Brady had ever fought in a co-main event. I did not know a Sean Brady was the DraftKings favorite over a stud like Chiesa. I didn't know Sean Brady was so super strong that it debilitated Michael. I didn't know anything about him. In all fairness, I don't know who's ranked in the top 10 or the top 5. That's where it is such a miss when fighters say that. There is so few people that do know. I would be stunned. And if I could just sit down anybody, even any one of you, there's millions of you out there, but if I could sit in front of one of you and go, tell me the top 10 guys at 170, if you could recite that off the top of your head, I'm going to think you're a bit of a dork. In all fairness, I'm going to go, my God, how did you know that? Now, I get if you know the website or the .com that lists it. No, I'm saying right off the top of your head, if you could tell me who's ranked 1 through 10 in any given weight class, you got too much time on your hands. In all fairness, that's why it's such a mistake to call out a top 10 guy. Nobody knows what in the hell that means. Name names. Well, Sean agrees with me. Sean sees it Chael's way. Because Sean, after having a moment to think on it, went on something called social media in the form of Twitter and called out Khamzat Chimaev. That's a beautiful fight. There's not a lot I can learn about your resume that's going to tell me how you're going to do in competition. There's not. Well, I had some boxing, and I played football when I was younger, and my brother does track and field, or whatever you put on a resume, you're probably a good athlete. I don't know. There is a couple of things where I do, and Sean Brady has those. A good wrestler who got a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I've heard enough. Let me stop you right there. You're going to be a handful. That's going to be a handful for any. Forget the 15-0. Forget your superstar strength. Forget that you're good enough to be a co-main event. If you tell me I'm a good wrestler and I have a black belt in jiu-jitsu, I have heard enough. You're a problem. That alone, before he brings the big, beautiful 15-0 record to the table, makes for a very interesting match with Chimaev. Now, hold that thought, because Chimaev was up this weekend as well. Chimaev had a match with Jack Hermanson. I heard some rumors on this match. I don't know if I believe them. One of the rumors I heard is that Jack and Chimaev are training partners and decided as a form of training to go out in this competition. I don't believe that. I just personally don't believe it. Jack lives in the UK. Chimaev trains in Sweden. At the same time, this little wrestling match, which probably didn't pay very well, if anything, happened to be in Sweden, and Jack was there. So there is some room that maybe they're in the same practice facility. But Jack just had a look of such devastation when he lost and frustration when he couldn't get his offense going, that I feel as though if they trained together and that happened on a regular basis, Jack would have been the most surprised guy in the room. So I just personally don't believe that. But Chimaev did look good. There are levels to skills, and I spoke to you guys about a move called a leg pass that Justin Gaethje did to Michael Chandler. It is the single most athletic thing Justin Gaethje has ever done in the octagon, aside from his post-celebratory flip off of the cage. A leg pass you will never see in the NCAA. You may not even see it in the NCAA finals. This is a world level. Chandler picks him up. Gaethje has to rotate his body mid-air, come between the crotch, take the knee to the other side while gaining elevation, come out on top. That was the only moment in the match that broke Michael Chandler. And Chandler regained his focus, but it took him about 2 seconds. Chandler dropped to the canvas, and now he's got his knees, his elbows, and his head on the mat, and just go, oh my gosh. That was my last big effort, and it failed. That was, now Chandler regrouped himself, I agree with that. But that was the one moment where you could stop the tape and go, Gaethje got him. He broke him. And I did not know that Gaethje was that level of athlete. I bring that to you because the techniques that Chimaev chose to use and score in this wrestling match with Jack are techniques that you are not going to see in the NCAA, including the finals. You are only going to see leg wraps and things like this. Step outside, double saltos as a way of defending a body lock. This is very high-level world and Olympic competition. It's the only time you're going to see these moves. and it also showed an upper body attack that we didn't know Chimaev had. If you have watched Chimaev's 4 fights in the UFC, you have seen 3 great double legs. 3 great double legs and 1 left hook. It's all that you've seen. It's been in and out of there. But those double legs at the same time are one piece of wrestling. And no matter how good it is, if in fact you only have one piece, when you get in there with a Kamaru Usman, when you get in there with a Colby Covington, the top guys that you're going to have to go through to see your goals come true, they can stop a double leg. Whether they can stop yours or not, that's between you guys in the octagon, but they can stop a double leg, right? So now that you see that Chimaev has so much more, it makes it very interesting. It does make it very compelling. Many people that watched the Chimaev-Hermansson match came in with the same conclusion that Chimaev should no longer be a 170-pounder. Now, that was based purely on staring at these guys, realizing that Jack is a middleweight, realizing that Jack is not a small middleweight, and realizing that Chimaev looks bigger than Jack. But we don't know what the scale said. I mean, in all fairness, we don't really know, and I do feel that that narrative is taking some real liberties. When Chimaev became a name for us all, just to remind you guys, it was on Fight Island in Abu Dhabi. He fought at 185 pounds, and the next fight he fought at 170. That's the most relevant part of that story. Had he fought twice in 2 weeks, it would have been super cool. Had he fought 2 times and the weigh-in was separated by 6 days and he didn't even know about it until 5 days before, it would have been really cool. The fact that his first fight was 185, but his second fight is 170 is a clue for us, the audience, that he's not all that big. That he wasn't cutting to 185. If he was cutting a lot to 185, he never could have made 170, and he wouldn't have been the guy that they called. It's the fact that he was a light 85-pounder is why he even got the call and then proved it by making 170. That's my evidence. That's not perfect. It's what I have. It was a hell of a weekend. Sean Brady is a hell of a fighter, and Sean calling out Chimaev. Forget about 15-0. Forget about the top 10 guys. I don't even know if Chimaev is a top 10 guy. In all fairness, I don't know if those rankings have come out. He most certainly should be, but I don't know if he is. So do you want a top 10 guy, do you want a top 5 guy, or do you want Chimaev? What if they're not the same thing? Well, I mean, what if? I don't know where to find the rule, but what if Chimaev's not a top 5 and he's not a top 10? Do you still want Chimaev because you said you want a top 10 and or a top 5? Do you see the problem with the rankings? Nobody knows. It's my job to know, and I don't know, and I'm not trying to be funny. And if any of you do know 1 through 10 off the top of your head, you're a bit of a dork.